This is infuriating. If I was a player, I'd be so angry if I was a 7th or 8th team and I'm going to have to play a 9th or 10th spot that I already beat in the regular season to get the 7th or 8th spot.
The locks for the Panama Canal, the propeller for Lindbergh's Spirit of St. Louis, rails for the Trans-Siberia Railroad. All were forged of Pittsburgh steel.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to The Point, your one-stop shop for all things sports, straight out of IUP and brought to you by The Pen. It's Brett and I here, as we always are. We have our loaded schedule, and today we're diving into first the NFL draft. I got to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's Najee Harris. It's the offensive line. It's filling some gaps on defense. We're not going to dive into specific players, but we're really going to dive into these positions that the Steelers need to fill, especially if they want to compete in the AFC North this year, given the strength from the Browns and the Ravens and what they are doing moving forward. We're going to talk about Julian Edelman, and there's a lot of debate here about should he be a Hall of Famer, should he not? We're going to pull that apart a little bit here because when you really break down the numbers, it's a bit more surprising than you would expect, and it might sway some of your opinions if Julian Edelman should really be a Hall of Fame player or if he just had a really good career. And finally, we will hop into the NBA, as we always do, and we're going to talk about a little bit of these teams that kind of overlooked when we're talking about an NBA championship moving forward, and how the NBA might make the play-in tournament a permanent thing moving forward. So all of that coming today here on The Point. Hopping in right at the beginning, Brett, the NFL draft is approaching this week, and the Steelers have a lot of areas that they're trying to fill. One of which is going to be the running back position that basically everyone thinks that they have to fill. They have the 24th overall pick. We were one of the worst rushing teams in the league last year. James Conner only rushed for about 700-ish yards. I think we were at the lowest tier, really. We just couldn't, there was no run game. So that made us a pass only offense, basically, and you get figured out. If you're passing the ball 75-80% of the time, you're figured out. So Steelers are looking to draft Najee Harris at 24 overall to get a solid running back from Alabama, someone that can really give them that threat running back. So that's kind of a given. The Steelers might not do it. That'd be a very big surprise for a lot of fans. But I want to ask you here, Brett, because obviously a good running back needs a good offensive line. And the Steelers' offensive line it was weak last year, and it's getting weaker given players that have been lost, just going other places in free agency. You had Pouncey that retired. So there are holes in that line, and they're trying to fill it with some cheap signings right now. But you kind of got to pick and choose right here in the draft. Do we fill some linebacker positions to make up for losing Bud Dupree since he went to the Titans? Do you get maybe a new corner since we had to get rid of Steven Nelson? I think one thing, and I don't know why many mock drafts have to have this, they think that the Steelers should draft a wide receiver. I think that is a waste of time. They draft wide receivers like it's nothing. They can do that next year. You have your wide receivers for this year. You have some okay depth. But Brett, do you think they need to, if they're going to pick Najee Harris, do you think they should be spending a lot of these mid-round picks on the offensive line, or do they kind of spread them out, get a little defense, get a little offense? How would you build the draft?
Najee Harris is an essential piece. You need to get that running back. Like the offensive line, you're going to need that too. Big Ben was the fastest throwing quarterback in the NFL last year. Ridiculous. Now, I feel like that might go on his part a little too. I feel like I'll go back to what I said a couple couple weeks ago. I don't think he moves that much anymore.
He doesn't.
I think he needs to figure out how to move again. Take some lessons out of Brady's book. Even though Brady can't move at all, he's very slow. But in the pocket, he moves and stuff. But
Ben can't scramble. When that pocket collapses and with a weak offensive line, it's going to collapse. Yeah. Ben basically just kind of hugs the ball and towers over.
Yeah, like you need to be able to move back like pretty fast. Like he used to be able to do that. He used to be in and out all the time. But hey, he's getting older. But
so you thinking that after they
an excuse, but the offensive line contributes to that too. I think we need to get a lot more offensive line.
And they're looking into getting some offensive tackles, edge, maybe a new center, and these are all essential pieces. Because the thing is that we got a little weaker on defense. We got a little weaker losing guys like Nelson and Dupree. We're nice to get Alu back on the defensive line. So we still have some. This is still going to be a good defense. This defense is still going to hold together. Even without Dupree, you have TJ Watt back there. And you have Devin Bush if he comes back healthy, and Spillane and other guys that are going to fill their roles here. So I think they can kind of back off the defense a little bit, maybe later round picks. But I do agree with you there, Brett. Get Najee Harris, get it, maybe an offensive tackle and an edge, and then see where you can go from there. Maybe even draft a couple, just because if you can bolster up that line, the defense was not our issue. It was offense. It was running game. So focus on that line, focus on that running back, get us back as a 2-dimension offense. And maybe Big Ben will start moving as well. We'll see if that. So that's our take here at the point.
A couple more seconds. What was it, like 2 points?
About it was a very short margin. He was throwing the ball.
That's terrible. Like
it was snap, hold, throw it immediately.
How do you make a decision that quickly? Like to just throw. Like credit to Big Ben. Like that's amazing. But
it definitely hurt our offense.
Give it more time. They need to give it more time, a lot more time.
Especially given his age, this could be his final year. We need some protection. If you want him to do well, if we want him to not get hit, if we want him not go down, but still have some time, got to get that offensive line. So if you're asking Brett and I here, that's our take from the point. Get Najee Harris, bolster that line, and then if you got the picks to do so, you can add some defensive assets, but we need to rebuild this offensive line in this draft. So now moving on to our second segment, we're talking Julian Edelman, the Patriots wide receiver who decided to call it a quits after this season. And now he's a wide receiver that is very well known. He was very effective and had a great impact on the Patriots through his time there, I believe from 2010 through 2020. So about 10 seasons there. And just this week, Terrell Davis, who's a Hall of Fame running back, if maybe you might not know, he came out and said that Julian Edelman deserves to be there because to him, it's looking at the impact that he made for the Patriots. And that's a fair argument. You look at the impact of a player, but I think this is more so of why can't a player just have a good career and we say, man, that was a great player, but not induct them into the Hall of Fame? Because when we're looking at Julian Edelman's career, I'm going to lay out the stat line here for all of you. In his career, 941 targets, 620 receptions, only 6,822 yards, and 36 touchdowns. That's regular season. That is not Hall of Fame numbers. You look into the playoffs here, 180 targets, 1,442 yards, just 5 touchdowns in the playoffs. 5 touchdowns. That's hard to believe. That's all he had across his career in the playoffs. So we pull this back together. He won 3 Super Bowls, 2014, 2017, and in 2018 against the Rams, he was named Super Bowl MVP, though he caught 10 catches for 141 yards. No touchdown. No touchdowns. This was a 13-3 win for the Patriots over the Rams. So not many touchdowns were scored. So they kind of just, I feel like, gave it to him because he's like, well, he had the best stats. He was the second wide receiver since Santonio Holmes on the Steelers, who won Super Bowl MVP for his amazing catch over the Cardinals. He deserved it. Julian Edelman, not so much. So we look at his career. We bring it all back. Brett, 6,822 yards, 36 touchdowns. I want to remember those stats. Now let's list off some guys that are Hall of Fame wide receivers and do a comparison here. Jerry Rice, 22,895 yards, 197 touchdowns. Calvin Johnson, 11,619 yards, 83 touchdowns. Randy Moss, 15,000 plus yards, 156 touchdowns. Terrell Owens, 15,000 yards, 153 touchdowns. Julian Edelman is nowhere near these numbers. How can people consider him a Hall of Fame candidate? Why can't he just be a good player, Brett? Why do we have to force that Hall of Fame on him?
My opinion is I think he's an average receiver that played with Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. I think that's what it is. Like, I feel like a lot of receivers that are average and they played with Tom Brady, they would look really good. Like, I feel like most of his touchdowns were because of Brady, or it's
just the right place at the right time. I guess
the right place at the right time. Like, but what's I don't know if you got this or not, Archer. What's like the lowest Hall of Fame? Like,
so when we look at a wide receiver with the lowest statistics in the Hall of Fame, you got Bob Hayes. He played from 1965 to 75, 7,414 yards, 71 touchdowns. More yards than Edelman, more touchdowns than Edelman.
A lot more touchdowns. Like,
another one is Drew Pearson. He played from 1973 to 83, 7,822 yards, 48 touchdowns. So these guys had better numbers. Now, I can't speak about their career and their postseason, but they had higher numbers than Edelman. But now it's like, well, Edelman's kind of similar, way less touchdowns, less yards. Can we just say that he had a good career and call it there? Like, or do you think that
great player? I don't think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Hall of Fame are people that changed the game.
Like his Super Bowl MVP might have been able to give that to Brady, who threw the ball.
Even so, Brady
defense there. The defense held the other team to 3 points.
Yeah, just give it to the defense in general.
Give it to some defensive player that had great tackles. Like,
should have been
made a great difference, but I feel like someone else could have done that and
exactly.
Like,
so I mean that's basically it. The people are going to argue this. Julian Edelman is not Hall of Fame. I'm afraid that he is not. He's a great player, great career, but not so much Hall of Fame. Look at the numbers pulled apart. He had a big impact. That's what Terrell Davis says. But when you really look at it, he was not really Hall of Fame. Just call it there.
Impact might have been Tom Brady's impact, though.
And that's their take. That's a great take here, and that's our take here.
So if he was so good, whenever Tom Brady went to the Buccaneers, he would have been like, "Oh, come along for the ride." But hey,
he picked Gronk.
He was still there.
And he picked Gronk, and Gronk came out of retirement. So we'll see. We'll see how it comes out. It's going to be years before this happens, but I don't think that Julian Edelman should really be inducted. And moving into our final segment, the one that we bring you every single week here, it is the NBA. Brett, our supreme analyst here, gives us his takes on what is going on in the NBA and how it makes sense, how it pulls all together. So we're going to hop real quick in here, and we've talked about Lakers, Nets. This is all over the place. It's every week. These are the teams. And, of course, these are the teams with the highest odds going into to win the NBA championship. That's no surprise. No surprise to anyone here. The second tier, according to CBS, is teams like the Clippers, the Jazz, the Bucks. I think that's pretty fair. But when you look at teams that have a long shot chance to win the NBA championship, they say it's the 76ers, the Suns, the Mavericks, the Celtics. Brett, do these teams actually have a long shot chance, or should they be considered in that second tier?
A couple do. I believe the Nuggets are one of the biggest ones. I feel like they're one of the top contenders, honestly, the Nuggets and the 76ers. The Bucks, I never see them winning a championship. I don't think Giannis can do it. I feel like in the playoffs, it's a lot different mindset. The coaches and players really pick apart a team, find their weaknesses, find out what they can exploit and what they can make sure the other team can't do. One of the teams is the Suns that people think, oh, they're on the line. If you just look, the Nets just played them. KD came back, dropped 33 on them. 33 coming off the bench, coming off an injury. He just shows up. He's like, oh, hey, guys, I'm here. Just came back. I'm just going to drop 33 and win the game coming off the bench. Like, how does that happen? Like, come on.
How did the Suns let that happen?
How does that happen? They're not playing with Harden. They have Kyrie and KD, and KD just comes back and drops 33. Like, amazing player. Absolutely amazing. But how does the Suns let that happen? They knew he was going to shoot from this spot.
And that might be then why that's why I think they're in the long shot contention there. So when you look at that's Brett's take there for at least the championship odds. Look out for the 76ers and the Nuggets, but not so much for the Bucks, even though they're always up there in that second tier. And moving in here to our final top, we touched on this last week. Go check out that episode if you want to hear a good debate and a good rant about the NBA play-in tournament. But Brett, we talked about this last week. It's happening. It's a terrible idea. But now there is some rumor about how the NBA play-in tournament, which decides the 7th and 8th seed in the playoffs. It allows the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th seeds fight for 2 playoff spots. There are, quote, league sources expect easy approval to make it permanent. That means every year we would have the NBA play-in tournament. Brett, what type of impact does this have on the league?
It's terrible. Why change the rules? Like, especially in the middle of the season, and now they're trying to make it permanent. Like, it's bad for the players, bad for teams, bad for diehard fans because they like the nostalgia of playoffs and everything. Changing it's going to be a little weird. But regular fans and money, that's where it happened. It's going to give you more viewership. It's going to give a couple more games, more viewerships, more advertisements, more money. It's just a money move for the NBA. That's what it is. It's just a money move. And I consider myself a diehard fan now of the NBA. I don't like it. I don't like the money move.
Yeah,
I don't think they need to. Like, I know, get off topic. I know the NHL recently did a whole like car thing with like Honda and getting a bunch of sponsorships. That's a money move, but they're desperately in need of money.
They are.
But NBA, they're not in desperate need of money. Why would they do this money move? I think it's a little.
And it's basically what's the point of that in holding the 7th and 8th seed? You're better than the 9th and 10th team. They didn't win their games. Yeah. So now they could steal it from you. And that's just, it's ridiculous, especially for those on the cusp teams. 9th and 10th place, you're not deserving. 7th and 8th place, you might have just really fought to get there. And it doesn't mean anything. Just expand the playoffs at this point.
You probably had a couple regular season games that you had to grind out and win against those 9th and 10th teams. But next thing you know, the 9th and 10th team, they're like, oh,
1 or 2 games that decide
in this game, and then we're going to beat you and then take your playoff spot that you rightfully got. Like, this is ridiculous.
It's just like the wild card in baseball.
I don't know what's totally Adam Silver and a couple other people. Like, but I feel like a lot of top tier NBA players probably have a couple saying words in this. Like, I don't understand how players aren't even talking about this. Like, if I was a 7th or 8th team, or a 7th or 8th, the Mavericks.
Yeah.
I know the Mavericks are. They voiced their opinion on it, but no one really else is. Like, Mark Cuban was, and Luka Doncic voiced their opinions very strongly about this play-in tournament and how it was terrible. But no other teams really voiced their opinion. I feel like that might have been the decision maker for the NBA to really do this, because I feel like if there was a lot more backlash on this, it would have gone a different way.
For sure.
No one really talked about
it. And it's up in the air right now. We will see. But the fact that league sources expect easy approval, I think this needs to be a player's vote. First off, it really should be. But we will see.
It should be a player's vote. I just don't think it should happen.
It shouldn't happen at all. But if they're going to vote,
it should happen at all. Especially in the middle of the season. This season, it should not happen at all. And I don't understand how more players are not talking about this. This is infuriating. If I was a player, I'd be so angry if I was a 7th or 8th team and I'm going to have to play a 9th or 10th spot that I already beat in the regular season to get the 7th or 8th spot. And now I have to play them again to get what I rightfully got.
Exactly.
In the first place. Like, it's ridiculous. Doesn't make sense. They shouldn't do it, but they're going to, because it's all about the dough.
All right, everybody. That is everything we have for you today on The Point, diving into the draft coming up here in the NFL. Julian Edelman, does he deserve to be in the Hall of Fame? And then, of course, we heard Brett really get into it about the NBA play-in tournament. Let us know what you guys think about all of these topics, as they're really hot and up and coming right now in sports. And we'll hope that we see some good news from the draft maybe some good news about Julian Edelman, and hopefully some good news about the play-in the future. So that's everything we have for you guys today on The Point. Brett and I, as always, thanks for tuning in.